something that really bothered me was it was 3 games into the split, and I think 2 of the casters had made this comment: "Wow, all rogues drafts are bad." Like chill out, dude. Like how can you make this comment after 3 games when teams are like learning the meta and stuff?
You know their gaming names, but who are they really? Take a look with us under the hood. Welcome to the 7th episode of Under the Hood. We are already almost over with the season. I mean, it's almost week 8. It's week 8. And it's a really important week for us because, first of all, we play against the number 2 and 2nd team in Europe right now, which is G2 and Fnatic. And also a win against one of them would kind of secure our playoff spot. So for this really, really important week, we have a really, really important guest for the team's success. And please welcome together with me our head coach, Simon fredy122 Payne. Hello, Freddy.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah? You good? Not tired?
No, just been like a hard week of practice so far. So, I mean, we're getting ready for this week, these 2 games. Really important. Maybe we want to break the narrative that we can't compete against the top teams. So, there's a lot going into this week. So,
But it's nice weather outside today, right?
yeah, it's taken a turn.
Yeah, like sound really unusual in Berlin at this time, I guess. Let's start with a small quiz. How long do you think we both already work together?
I would say maybe 4 years.
4 years? Oh, well, that's a pretty good guess. So you're Team Rocket in January 2016.
Yeah.
So that's like exactly 4 years. Not bad. All right, but let's get to the real questions. You said you don't remember them because we did it before with you. So that's a good thing that you forgot about it. But yeah, the first segment is always our 10 quick questions to get you warmed up. Don't think too much about it. Just say what you think first. Let's go. So question number 1, what's your favorite food and drink?
I think nothing beats a good burger. And I like milkshakes as well. So
Okay. Can you maybe tell us what you ate the most in Korea when we boot camped there?
Well, I ate a lot of fast food, but yeah, I mean, I ate a lot of bulgogi and stuff, rice, and yeah, doesn't agree with my stomach, and I even got food poisoning on one occasion for a couple of days. So
Didn't you eat a lot of burgers as well?
I did eat a lot of burgers there, though.
Let's move on. Question number 2, who's your favorite League of Legends champion?
It's between Renekton and Na. I think those are the 2 champs that haven't really changed at all since I was playing. So I still really enjoy playing them. Probably Na. He's a bit more diverse.
Yeah. All the Aatrox mains are going to be really disappointed in
Yeah,
you.
well, he's just not the same anymore, is he? He's changed.
Yeah. Do you like the new Aatrox better than the old one?
I think he's more fun to play, the new one, but the old one always has a place in my heart.
Question number 3. What do you love the most about working in professional esports?
I think it's the adventure and the thrill of the life. Every week there's going to be a lot of emotions going through, whether you win or lose. Every week's unique, like you have different opponents, the patch changes. So there's always something different. It doesn't really get boring. And then when you do start to get burned out, you have these big long holidays. So there's a lot of things, but in general, the most important would be like the thrill of the lifestyle, I would say.
Does it change being like a player and a coach? The thrill or?
Not really. The style of work changes, and I do think players have to work a little bit harder with all the solo queue they have to play. But you still have like the same emotions going into the week. You're still really invested. So,
yeah, this is a topic we will talk about more in detail later. Question number 4 is the opposite. What do you hate the most about working in the professional esports?
think on the same note, it can really drag on the split, and you're like away from your family and stuff. So you don't have like your friends and that you can hang out with at home, at least for most people who aren't German. So I think being away from family and stuff is the biggest thing, I would say.
Question number 5. You can morph into a League of Legends champion in real life. Which champion would you choose and why?
Oh gosh. Well, maybe Quinn. I think it would be quite cool to be able to transform into a bird. So
yeah,
I haven't really thought about this one before, but
one of your players would be really
Finn will
happy.
really like that answer, but hopefully he doesn't hear it.
Question number 6. When you prepare for a match, do you have any routines?
I mean, depends what you mean by routines, but we do a lot of stuff. We do pre-game routines to get like the player's mind working. As well, again, like with routines, like we do a lot of like scouting. I don't know if you count those as like routines, but every week we will like look at our enemy team and what's going on and their patterns and stuff. So yeah, I mean
it's mostly about like game day routines. Like what do you do to get yourself personally into the mood of competing, maybe as a coach?
I mean, myself personally, honestly, I just like to chill a bit, listen to some music sometimes, and again, we do have these routines like the breathing stuff. I'm sure Ismail talked about it, which just help activate the brain a bit. So
you do breathing as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Good music in the bus, right?
Yeah, only the bus driver's music, of course.
You know I'm not DJing anymore for the last 3 weeks. It's Vendor now. So yeah, you can write your complaints to him. Question number 7. What's your favorite music genre?
I'm not really a huge music person, to be honest.
I should have scraped this question.
You should have scraped this question. I mean, I will say I actually like a lot of the League songs because they have some kind of like personal meaning, I think, to me. And I mean, some movie tracks I obviously like, but I don't really have like a genre that I stick to, you know. I will say I don't really like rap.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oops. Because Vander and me are mostly listening to rap.
Yeah.
But you don't have earphones with you, right? So you just have to endure whatever we play.
Yeah. I have to suffer.
Which League of Legends champion music is your favorite?
I mean, I like a lot of the world songs. I like the new Warriors song. I think that one's really good.
The one you mean where they covered it for the
like
season star?
The season 10 one, yeah.
Okay. I would have hoped you said now the song for your world.
Yeah, I mean that one's obviously really good. Obviously.
Which one was it?
That was the original Warriors.
Oh yeah, so so okay. Next question would be, what's your favorite game of all time?
Video game, you mean?
Yes.
I mean, it would kind of have to be League of Legends, really.
Besides League of Legends.
I think I would say one of the old Command and Conquer games I used to play. It was a game called Renegade. It was like a FPS game, but with bases. Probably most people haven't heard of it, but that's kind of the first game I started playing really competitively.
So you only played Renegades or also like the RTS games? Because Renegades was
I played the
different.
RTS as well. And yeah, Renegade was like based on them. And I just had a preference for that. So
which Command and Conquer title was your favorite?
I think maybe Red Alert 2 was the best. But they are remaking the original ones now.
Really?
Yeah. So
but they're just updating the graphics, right?
Mostly, yeah.
We should play because I spam.
I mean, I'm really looking forward to playing those, to be honest.
I spam Command and Conquer like crazy too. I think Red Alert. I played a lot of Red Alert.
Classics.
But yeah, it's so sad there's no good RTS games anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's such a good genre. Did you ever play Stronghold or Stronghold Crusader?
No.
Oh, we should play that game.
Yeah,
It's 3
you've
years
talked
ago.
to me about it before.
Yeah, I think
But-
like 3 years ago, but but yeah, we should try this. It's so good. But did you get into like StarCraft as well then?
No,
No.
I was mainly stuck in these CNC games, you know. So
Yeah, because
never.
they're much slower.
Yeah, they're slower. I think they were a bit more noob friendly and fun.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to question number 9. Imagine you are stranded on a lonely island. What 3 items would you take with you?
Oh gosh.
Do you remember these questions now?
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember what I answered last time.
Yeah.
I think I would be practical. And I would take maybe some fishing stuff.
Okay. I mean, that's a bit cheating because it's a lot more items than just one. But we let it go through, okay? You get a fishing kit.
Okay, I would need maybe like a tent because I think it would be really hopeless at building a shelter.
Okay.
And some entertainment, I guess.
So entertainment, what would that be?
Well, I guess there's no Wi-Fi connections involved here, so maybe like a handheld console or something, you know.
How are you going to charge it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I have to answer like a book or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I would do for
music.
entertainment.
No.
You know, I've watched too many of these like survivor programs, so obviously I go for the practical answers where I actually want to live,
Yeah.
rather than I want a phone on the island.
Only one player said it.
Really?
Which one was it?
Inspired.
Yes. Yep.
Well, I do know my players a bit then.
Let's find that out later. Your fishing kit. What are you gonna use as bait?
That's a good point. I'll have to like catch worms in the ground and stuff, you know.
Okay. And the last question, the most important one. Maybe you remember it now. Which key is best for Flash, D or F?
Anyone who doesn't have Flash on D is just trolling, honestly.
Okay. Do you know how your players have their Flash on?
Most of them have it on F, actually. So
There's only one player who has it on D. Who is it?
Vander?
No.
Okay, I'm 1 for 1.
But the lane is good.
Well, I just have the logic that it's like closer to where my finger normally is. So I need to like react with it fast. So it's like just an instinct press on D, you know? And I've always had F key on like Ignite and stuff where I might actually like think about using it for a second. So that's always been my logic.
Yeah, it was like, if you have something that switches all the time, why will it be the one in between those stable ones, right?
I actually always have a problem if I used to play with like Ghost and Flash, because sometimes I want to put them both on D.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But the other player who had it on D was Hansama. That's why I said the lane was good.
Okay.
All right. Let's start with the real interesting stuff here. So obviously it's gonna be a long story for you, but how did you get into games in general?
Into games in general? I think, well, my brother started getting into them. I always used to play like chess and stuff when I was young. I think that was the first like kind of board game thing that I got into. So I played a couple like tournaments for that. From there, it kind of turned into like video games. My brother started playing them, and my dad was like somewhat into playing them. Like he had these really old machines with like Pong and stuff.
Okay.
So obviously as like the new PlayStation came out and stuff like this, kind of just evolved. I remember the first time I played online was like actually one of these Command and Conquer games on like the dial-up connection, you know. I think I was like, I was like 7 or something, and my parents made my brother like sit there with me and watch. Must have been pretty boring for him, but it kind of evolved from that. So my family's like always had a loose connection to like games and stuff, and the new technology came out with it. So
you have an older brother, right?
I have 2 older brothers, but this was the middle brother.
Okay, and they watch you play.
Yeah.
Because the dynamic usually is that the youngest one has to watch and...
I mean, I think that happened too. But I just remember that my mom didn't want me to play alone on the internet because of strangers, you know, and stuff.
Oh, so she made your brother to sit next to you.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So how old were you back then?
Must have been like 7 or 8 or something.
Mm. And then how did it start for you to like being competitive? I mean, you said you always were competitive with chess, and then I guess it was something natural for you to compete in whatever you do. But yeah, how did you get into like competitive video gaming?
I mean, from there, I think the main game I started playing, like I said, was Renegade. And you could play, it wasn't like an esport or anything, but there was like some competitive leagues you could play. And I got into that pretty young. And to me, it was just really fun having like more organized game, like people communicating. And then you could make like decisions in the game based on what was happening. It was a lot better than just playing casual, you know? So I played that for like quite a long time, actually. And eventually that game kind of died out. And some of my friends from it, they're like, hey, check out this game. It just happened to be League of Legends. And then it was all downhill from there. No, yeah, that's how I got into League. And that was even before Season 1. Like, when it was first out, we were playing on North America server because EU server was not a real server. So it was a long journey. It was a long journey.
You played with some real OGs back then too, right?
Yeah. Me and a couple friends, we played with like Hotshot and stuff. We were like pretty high elo. That wasn't ranked, but it was still like hidden elo. So played with like Hotshot when he was the Nidalee player, and like Reginald and Chowster and all those people, you know, before there was like a real scene. So I always look kind of fondly on that, even if we did always have like 100 plus ping.
Yeah.
But it were good times.
And then you just moved to the EU server when it came up?
Yeah, at some point, because there was like ESL tournaments every weekend or something, we wanted to play those as well.
Go for low?
Go for low, that was it, yeah. Yeah, they were terrible looking back, but they were so much fun when we played them. We always lost at top 8.
I mean, it was like Clash, right?
Yeah, it was a bit like Clash, but the bracket never really changed. So we always ended up playing with like SK or something back then, I think, and we always lost. That had like Ocelot and stuff in it. So, but yeah, I think that was the main reason we changed, and obviously ping and stuff.
So when you played on the NA server, I mean, there were already some teams forming, right? Like CLG or TSM. Did you get like any requests from some of the players that thought you were from NA?
I think, I don't know, because I didn't really talk to him properly about it, but who was Reginald's like brother? I can't remember.
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, I got like asked by him about it was the first tournament between like EU and NA. I can't remember the name, to be honest.
Of his team, was it Epic? I think it was Epic Gamers or something.
Yeah, that was their team name. There was like a really old tournament. My memory is gone, but I got asked about that. But because I wasn't from NA, I just assumed I couldn't like play in it on their side, you know. I did get some offers from like some early EU teams, but back then I was still kind of playing with my friends, so I didn't want to do it. Yeah.
Okay, so you were pretty high elo. Your friends were also really high elo.
Yeah.
Which is unusual as well, you know, like because with most people, they start playing with friends, they get high elo, their friends don't.
Well, I think 2 of my friends I carried on playing with. The rest of them, kind of, yeah.
And then you got like these offers. I mean, back then, people have to realize esports wasn't like a real thing, right? There was like something about StarCraft in Korea that was big, and then everyone's like, "There's no way ever that this will exist in Europe." But at what point did you feel like, okay, maybe I should join a team and compete in it, and it's like fun?
To be honest, in Season 1, I tried with my friends to go to like qualify for Season 1 Worlds, actually. I think we came like 7th out of 8th. It was a bit of a disaster. Season 2, I think I got a bit more serious because I think we joined up with like Yellow Pete and Crappo and stuff. So we were trying to...
right? No, there was
La
La
GG,
La
yeah.
GG.
So we tried to qualify for like these IEMs. Didn't go so well as well. I mean, we were all young, and especially myself didn't really know how to like act in like a team and stuff. And we also like, obviously most of us were like in school and stuff still, so that didn't really work. The first time I was really serious about it was when they announced like LCS actually
In
season 3, yeah. So I made a team with, it was none of my friends left there. It was like with Schleier and Nono and stuff. And yeah, we like managed to qualify for it. Like I had to like just disappear from university for a week, you know. I think some of my professors probably thought I was dead because I didn't like reply to emails and stuff. Would have done things different in hindsight, but yeah, that was like the first time I was really like into it, you know, like, oh, this could be something actually.
So you were already studying back then?
Yeah, I was in my final year of studying actually.
What did you study?
I studied sports science.
Sports science?
Yeah, I know, a gamer in sports science. Wow.
Wait, you studied sports science?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, so you have basically the same background as Isma.
Yeah, like vaguely. I mean, obviously he specialized in like certain parts of it and I just quit. So I wasn't really at the point where they like specialized.
Yeah.
You just kind of did a bit of everything, but
so it was still your bachelor's? It was. Do you have the bachelor and master system?
No.
No?
Because I never went back to finish it. I didn't really get anything for it.
No, but it was the bachelor.
Yeah.
Degree,
Oh, yeah,
right?
it was that, yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Because I thought you studied like computer science or something like that. No. Sports science. Wow.
Yeah, you know, back in the day I was a bit sporty myself.
So did you do any sports?
I played for football team. Played for the school football team for a period, and also looked at doing some like athletic stuff. That never really happened, but yeah. Interesting.
So then you were pretty old already back then, right?
Yeah, compared. I think I was 22 maybe, 21. Okay, not sure.
And how did your parents feel about you like skipping university, or didn't they know?
They knew that I went to the tournament. I think they were just a bit confused and a bit maybe worried about the situation. Spending too much time playing games, just kind of the normal thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I think my dad was more concerned than my mum, but my mum really got into it quite fast. And when we actually qualified, and they learned, hey, there's actually going to be like a decent salary for doing this, then they were like pretty like fine with it, you know, like dropping out of uni. Because at that period, I could still drop out of uni for 2 years and still go back. But if I did more than 2 years, then it was not an option anymore.
And then with AAA, you guys got relegated, right?
Yeah.
After the first split.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Sorry, not the first time you got relegated. No,
yeah, I know.
But why didn't you went back to uni after you got relegated? Because you didn't join any team like for a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to, I don't really remember how I thought, but I wanted to try again. Because I did enjoy LCS. I think the team was like a disaster in terms of like how we improved and how we talked to each other as a team. So that's probably why I think I took a bit of a break. But I thought it was worth. I mean, I still had like another year to go back to uni even after that, you know. So I figured it may as well try again. I think that was kind of where my head was at.
Yeah. You said in another interview that your parents were a bit worried about you.
Yeah.
Because you went in, right? Gave up uni for this and then straight back out. And I mean, it's crazy if you think about it, but it's not, now you have some kind of like long-term plan for your career. But back then it was like out of nowhere, you know? Did your parents like talk to you and say like, hey, Simon, maybe this is not the thing to go for, you know? Just go back to uni and finish it.
I think I don't quite remember. I mean, obviously we must have had discussions about it, but we never had like a big serious discussion about it. I think they were just going to wait and see what would happen. I do remember my uncle though had a conversation with me about it, and he said, you either need to do this gaming or you need to do university. Probably thinking I would just choose university.
Okay.
But I ended up choosing the gaming, so I'm not sure that went as he thought.
Do you think your parents sent him?
Possibly. I mean, they obviously like talked to him about it, you know. I don't know if they actually sent him. Yeah.
So how does your family feel about esports now, since you're so long already part of it? Do they understand the game? Do they follow it a little bit?
I mean, my mom, I know, like, she loves it. She watches it every weekend.
Really?
It's like, it's better than TV for her, you know.
Yeah.
She loves watching it. My dad, he enjoys it as well. I think both of them still have this like slight concern about the future and what happens, because technically you could still like lose your job and not get many offers, and then what do you do? Like you can't get back to something very easy, you know. You don't have like real qualification or something. So I think there's still that concern for them, but I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah,
it's happened so many times to me in esports that I don't know what my future will be, that it doesn't bother me that much, the unknown, you know.
Also, I mean, you come from different times, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
nowadays it feels like a stable job.
Yeah, I mean, that's true as well.
It's so crazy to think, you know, like we're sitting here talking about gaming, like paying our food with gaming. This is like sometimes you have to like remind yourself that it's a bit crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like the unthinkable, right, in season 3 or something. And you're like, what? But then the next step, I didn't know about this before I researched, but you founded Super Hot Crew with Svenskeren.
Yeah, we did actually. So that was our trying to get back into the LCS team in season 3.
Yes.
I think we had like Moops as well. I don't remember. I know it was me, Sven. Don't remember the exact lineup.
Was it Rallis already? No,
Rallis joined after, I think.
Who was there as well? Selfie, the team that
Selfie joined after.
Okay.
I think it was Moops in the mid lane, and maybe Mixer bot lane. I can't remember.
I mean, our crowd probably doesn't even know who Super Hot Crew is.
Yeah,
but I mean, they did pretty good in LCS for like coming from nowhere.
I mean, the reason we quit was because back then, I mean, we had an offer from SK.
Yeah.
Who were already in the relegation, but they were locked in the relegation tournament, whereas you had to like qualify through it with these other teams. And I think we could have done that, but there was this whole big DDoSing scandal that was happening at the time. This was early esports, before Riot like knew how to like prevent it and protect it, you know. So it wasn't necessarily like their fault or anything. And we got DDoSed in one of the rounds, and we were like, yeah, we're just gonna go to SK.
You got frogged.
Yeah, exactly.
So who came up with this name, Super Hot Crew? Was it your idea?
I think it was Moops actually.
Okay.
It was like one of his usernames, Super Hot Fire or something. And we thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But talking about like cheating, it's actually crazy that, I mean, it's the most played game on earth, right? And there's not really like of course there were some people botting or stuff like that, but it was like never a really big topic with League of Legends, like cheating and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Riot, for all the things that you could say that they've done wrong over the years, one thing they've done really well is dealing with cheaters and stuff. And well, I mean, what with them releasing this like new shooter game at some point in the future, I think that's like really bright point towards playing it, you know. And yeah, I mean, bit of Riot praise for you.
Yeah, I mean, without Riot, maybe esports wouldn't be where it is right now.
Exactly.
Because I mean, it was unthinkable of. I'm talking to the younger crowd now since they don't know most of this stuff, but it was unthinkable of just taking your game and create your own league and host like your own esports events.
Yeah.
Because I mean, back then we already had ESL, MLG. What else was there? IPL, I think. So nobody would take the financial risk, right, to host stuff like this. So
fortune favors the brave, right? They took like big risk, and it's great now. It's paid out.
Yeah, I mean, without Riot, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
But then you went to SK Gaming, right?
Yeah.
With Svenskern.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit maybe about Svenskern, because he was a good friend of yours, right?
Yeah. Of all the people, he was like one of the closest friends that I had in esports.
Do you guys still talk from time to time?
I think we've kind of gone our separate ways a bit. We did talk a couple weeks ago. Wasn't like a huge conversation or something. But yeah, I mean, I think if we like met each other in real life again, we would like reconnect pretty fast. So.
How surreal is it that he's still playing?
I mean, I'm really happy for him, to be honest, because he like was one of the harder working players as well. Even from the beginning, when there was like no coaches, he was like always improving himself. It was something that a lot of players, including myself, didn't really do. So I think he deserved like all the success that he got. I mean, it's impressive that he's still playing, you know. And I think he's still like at quite a decent level. I haven't like watched him or something, but yeah.
Yep. So SK Gaming, I mean, that's where you really like started shining, because I think most people who watch season 1 don't really remember you. Probably because AAA didn't do too hot. What I realized that you guys' jersey already had Rocket back then. So you're already with Rocket for a long time. But yeah, that was just a side note. Shout out to Rocket. But so SK Gaming, I mean, that's a long time you've been with them. Actually, it's not that long, only 2 years. But I think with your legacy there and your Worlds performance and stuff like that, it feels like a lot longer.
We did a lot in 2 years. You know, we went to Worlds and then we got relegated this bit after. As you were going to mention. So
I mean,
it was a long 2 years and lots of stories to tell from that, you know. So
yeah, but it's crazy to think about, to go Worlds 1 year and then, I mean, if there would be still relegation, maybe Vitality would have done the same, right, with the roster last year. But that must be such a roller coaster ride, you know. But let's talk about the high first. I mean, you guys come in the league. What was the roster you came in? Was it Candy Panda, Unrated, you,
and Jazzes and Sven.
And was one of them like really famous back then? Not really. I mean, Unrated played on different squads, right?
Unrated was in Fnatic, but people were saying he's like not that good anymore.
Yeah.
Probably Candy Panda was like the most famous of us back then. Jazzes was like complete rookie in mid lane.
I mean, Candy Panda was also the only one remaining from the old roster.
He was the only survivor.
From the old Ocelot roster.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys came in and did fairly well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were predicted to be like 7th or something. There's only 8 teams back then. But it's hard. Like it's hard to say. We just clicked. Like our playstyles just kind of clicked. The meta was really good for me, I remember, because it was like this Renekton, Mundo, Trundle stuff, which I wasn't actually a master of back then, but these champions were so like slow in lane phase that you could like, it was a comfortable meta to like fit in and play like your first games, you know. Like nothing could really go disaster wrong. And Sven was playing jungle the way that I kind of needed him to play, without even saying, like he would permanently like invade and spot the enemy jungler, which meant you could just play lane without worrying about jungler. That was like really good. So I think a lot of factors just fit together really well. Also, everyone was like reasonable human being, so we could work past issues that other teams like wouldn't be able to. Like we knew how to talk to each other decently well, I think. So gave us an advantage over most teams.
You didn't have a coach back then, right?
Yeah, there was no coaches back then. I mean, we had like, Jensen living with us, actually. He wasn't really coaching, though. But giving his opinion, like, every so often, which was fine, but...
Yeah, he was still bad, right?
Yeah, he was in his bad period.
Yeah. But you guys also did something really, like, something new in LCS, right? like lane swapping. I think you guys were like one of the first to really master it.
I mean, everyone kind of did this lane swap thing. We had like a bit of a unique one at one point with our lane swap, where I would just like go top anyway and like force them to like auto attack me, so it would push the wave back. Because lane swapping then was actually about freezing, not pushing. You see a lot of these newer lane swaps was about like just 4-man pushing down a turret. It wasn't actually like that back then. One reason was like the dragon also gave a lot of gold. So if you like 4-man push top, enemy team could just take dragon, you know, and it was like equal gold already.
Also, so I think the tower was much stronger, right? I mean, there was like almost.
I think so. There was no like demolish or anything. So
I mean, I think they made them. Yeah, of course there was no demolish, but I think the towers or the turrets were like way stronger, and that's why people could stall out those games, right?
I think they were. I can't really remember specifically, but yeah.
I think you couldn't like really dive because it was like 3 shots and you're dead.
Yeah, that's possible.
But yeah, so you guys did really well. I mean, now I can tell you, but back then with Rocket, we hated to play against SK Gaming because we knew it's an auto loss. I don't think we beat you guys once in that year. And I think in spring we went against Fnatic 5 games. But when we lost the 5th game, I remember Thomas saying it's over. Because there's no way we're going to beat SK Gaming. And then it was just an auto 0-3 loss.
Yeah. I mean, we loved playing against you guys as well. Because I think our style was just good against you guys. At bot lane, our bot lane would be pretty safe. Like, not much would happen. Mid lane would wave clear. And then Svenskeren would permanently like invade on Jankos. So Jankos was like disabled. And then I think I was like pretty good versus Asses back then, so I could always like snowball, knowing that the enemy jungler couldn't really do anything, you know. So
it was actually in summer because it was about going to Worlds.
Yeah,
and the system was so weird because everyone knew you guys are probably the #1 team in Europe back then, but somehow you ended up in 3rd place.
Yeah, we threw our games, like we threw game 3 versus Alliance. There was actually a long pause in that game, I remember. We just took like an inhib bot and then we ended up frying at Nash. Yeah, so it was a bit of a tragedy.
I think you guys played against Alliance after our match and we were praying, please Alliance, just lose. We can play Alliance instead of SK Gaming. But yeah, I mean, then you go to Worlds. But wait, one thing that I remember now. You actually played against your own player now, Vendor, right?
Yeah.
So how, is that like a weird feeling, you know, that you played against him and now you're coaching him?
Not necessarily. I think when I was kind of impressed when I started coaching him about that he actually offers a lot more than I expected from my like player view of him, because when I was playing against him, like bot lane would just go equal all the time, you know. It wasn't anything. But when I started like coaching him and like watching him actually play, I think I kind of thought like I underestimated him when I was a player, you know, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, I was kind of impressed when I started coaching him. It's not really that weird though. It's just, again, it's kind of impressive that he's managed to like stay like on good form over this time, because I didn't myself. So
yeah, but we can talk about this more in detail later. Okay. But then, I mean, Worlds came, right? And I think some people still didn't really had you maybe on the, like the page as one of the top laners in Europe. And then at Worlds, I think you got target banned every game.
Yeah.
How did it make you feel to be like? I mean, it must be a good feeling, right? Or they must think I'm such a good player that they have to target ban me.
Yeah, it was an honor. No, I mean, I think we going into Worlds, we weren't too threatening. I think we had some issues in like how we were drafting and approaching the game and stuff,
and some other issues.
Yeah. So. Yeah, other issues that can't be talked about. Yeah, so I think those bans were kind of natural. If we had like some other kind of threat on our team, then I think maybe we would have seen something else. But yeah, it is what it is.
What was it always a Aatrox ban, the target ban?
It was like Aatrox and Maokai, I think.
And was it
And
meta back then?
Maybe Nidalee.
Was it meta back then? Not really, right?
There was top meta was like really diverse. That was one of my favorites because you could play like Nidalee was like something you could play, and then you could end up playing like stuff like Irelia into her. Then you had like just these Maokai tanks, Maokai and then Mundo and stuff, Alistar.
But Aatrox wasn't like a real pick, right?
It wasn't a real pick for most teams, so, only for like EU teams.
So I mean, it was only against you that they banned it. What happened in scrims or something like that, or how could you explain that? Like every team started banning it against you.
I'm not sure. Like Aatrox was an answer that I used against most of the meta champs back then, so I think people were just like, yeah, we don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, but did you like smurf on like some Korean top laner in scrims and then
probably most likely?
And then he was like, "Hey guys, this guy, man, I don't know who he is, like this 122 guy, but you need to ban Aatrox."
Yeah. I mean, for sure I used it a lot in scrims, and teams like probably thought it was a threat. So
yeah, how was it scrimming for you for the first time against like international teams?
It was really cool, to be honest. I think some of the top laners like played like super aggressive. This was before jungle got buffed, so you had a bit more freedom to play aggressive. And I remember like the one I remember was like playing this. I think it was Going. He played a Rumble one game, and I never seen like someone play so aggressive in lane. So people really tried to like get advantages out of something in lane phase. So yeah, I mean it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but that's a bit surprising hearing it from you, because I don't know if it's still like this, but I think you had the most forward percentage of all time. I mean, to explain what forward percentage is, it means how much time you spent across the river, so over 50%. And I don't know when that stat was, but like, I don't know, 1 or 2 years ago, they came up with the whole all-time list, and you were on top for the top laners by like a large margin.
Yeah.
So you have been a really aggressive top laner back then.
Yeah, I liked to perma push,
Yeah.
that was my thing. Just applying as much pressure as you could back then, and yeah, it's kind of a stat that I hold with a bit of pride still. It's the only thing I have left. Finn sometimes talks about it.
How did they find this fact actually?
Our analyst like went on some Riot database and like brought it up, and he sees my name at like the top of this forward percentage stat, and he tells everyone.
Oh, our analyst.
Yeah,
Manish?
Nico.
Oh, Nico.
Yeah.
Oh, he has access to the numbers.
Yeah.
I
got it from somewhere. That's what I know.
I need to ask him for the numbers. But yeah, so you, the most aggressive top laner of all time.
I think I was tied with Cabochard as well. And maybe Hooney.
But I think it's getting less with him. I guess most people are not that forward percentage anymore.
Yeah.
Since, I mean, wave management is much more developed nowadays. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot with like the meta change as well. So it's back then it was a lot easier to
just crush the wave into the tower.
Exactly, and not die to a gank, like jungle buffs again, and
take as much pressure as you can.
Exactly.
And let you.
So it might be hard to beat this stat, to be honest.
But you also play against Darius and TSM.
Yeah.
And I think in an interview you said you were like also really surprised by how good he was, because I guess back then already EU people thought that NA is complete trash.
Yeah.
So what made you think, like what kind of qualities did you see in him that you didn't see as a viewer? Because I think that's something that most people like struggle, right, on even like casters, and we can get to this later, but like what made it different for you as a player to see something that you don't see as a viewer, that you feel this way about him?
I just thought that his laning phase was, he has this like reputation of being like a weak side top laner, I think, for a long time. And I thought his laning phase was actually like really good, and if you're not getting like much jungle attention or stuff, then this is like really valuable that your top laner can still have this like threat to actually like win lane. So it's like hard to say, but it's like mainly a feeling I had that he was actually like quite good, you know, and that he put up like a lot of resistance in lane and stuff like this.
And that feeling you don't get as a viewer.
Yeah, it's you often don't like, you don't get this feeling. Like, I mean, this is like a deeper topic as well, because you can talk about like draft and stuff and how it like feels to play against like some champions, like a Karthus jungle and stuff, compared to playing against like an Elise. And that's something like a lot of people don't really think about. Like, but as a player, you recognize in game what you can do because of those champions like in the game, you know.
I mean, we can talk about this later because I guess it's also an actual topic.
Yeah.
Because Papa Smith said something yesterday about when he changed the sides that he saw some stuff.
Yeah.
But let's finish your career first. I mean, it's so long still. But then you went back to LCS. I heard you said in the interview it was like way too easy for you at the beginning because you played against
in season 5,
because you played against all these top laners from Korea, which were like the standard back then, and maybe still are. But yeah, and then you somehow lost your motivation because of this, right?
I mean, motivation was one thing. I think the biggest issue I had as a player, I kind of briefly mentioned it, was that I didn't really look to improve myself. I got a bit arrogant in terms of like, we were winning every game. Like, we finished first in the regular league, so why would I?
In 2015.
2015, yeah. So we didn't have to like look that deeply into our games, but I think that was really arrogant of us all, but especially me. And so that was one reason.
It was still the same lineup though, right?
2015 was different because we had Forgiven join. So we had Forgiven and Fox joined. We had different like team dynamic.
But I mean, nothing came up, right? Because you were winning every game, and then I mean, you don't see a real team if you just win. Right?
That's not really true about nothing coming up. I mean, I can tell you by the end of by playoffs, we had a lot of drama, and I think I don't know if I ever said this, but I think by playoffs we had maybe 2 or 3 people going into playoffs thinking they were going to be benched next season.
Okay.
We had this article that was leaked or released, I don't know what, about Forgiven flaming N-rated or something. This was like right before playoffs, so N-rated like wasn't that comfortable. I know that I think SK as an org were like talking to Jensen a lot. So I think Fox was not also comfortable.
Yeah. And
Forgiven was just like, I don't know how he really felt, but the playoffs was just a bit. I mean, SK was like completely full of drama in spring, I think.
So do you feel like you started breaking up as a team, and then everyone just focusing on themselves because they're like, I don't know what's gonna happen with me next split?
I mean, for sure, like the team like fell apart. It was kind of sad, you know, because in season 4 we were like this big family. We weren't like the best mechanically or something, but we all like knew, we all worked together, we all liked each other, we would hang out with each other. In season 5 it was a different dynamic where we were like, it wasn't really a family anymore, we were just like 5 good players. And when things started going wrong, then everything just like fell apart, you know. We couldn't like pull each other back together.
And then IEM happened, I guess, where it really like broke down because you guys didn't perform too well. Do you remember what the score was, or like how far you came?
We went third in groups, I think, and we dropped out because of it. So that was when Forgiven got like banned out, and we didn't react in a way, either in draft or even in our play, that enemy teams decided they can't do that anymore. So again, it like continued to happen for a bit. So, and that also built tension in the team, you know, like I think from Forgiven's point of view, it was probably like, okay, they're banning my champs every game, why can't you guys do something about it, you know? So probably frustration on his part, and
And you already had a psychologist back then, because I remember I talked to him at one of the IEM parties, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he was German as well, and that was like really unusual back then to have a psychologist.
Yeah.
But that didn't help at all.
You can only fix like so much. I think our issues were just beyond fixing, so I don't think anyone could have really like done that much.
And then you went back to LCS and it started to break down everything. Do you feel like all the LCS teams watch IEM and they were like, oh
yeah, for sure.
there's a solution to the how do you say, to the math quiz? I don't know.
Yeah.
So then you guys went straight into relegation, right?
Next split we went into relegation. Yeah.
And do you know who relegated you?
Yeah, it was G2.
Gamers 2.
Yeah.
And that's a funny story because Oslo was still playing, right? Mid lane? Was he? No, he wasn't.
I don't think anymore. He was. I think
it was already Perks, right?
Yeah, it was Perks, and then it was a weird like team around him.
Yeah, but that must have been bittersweet for Oslo, right? Against his former team.
It must have been quite sweet for him, but
I mean, they didn't have a good breakup back then, I think.
Yeah, they did not. But I think it's kind of funny thinking about it, because if we would have won that, we only lost by one game. It was 3-2. If we would have like won that series, then everything would have been different. G2 might never have got into RCS, and what would it be like now?
Yeah. So you're part of the history.
Yeah, not in the way I would like, I guess, but.
But how was the team atmosphere in relegation? I mean, you already said it was kind of bad before because of the uncertainty by the org, and I guess people not being on the same page. But it must have been horrible in relegation, right?
Yeah, it was tragic. It's just this team that you had completely falling apart. It's like kind of really sad, And
but I mean, you see both sides of the end now. You have like a little high up, like going to Worlds. I mean, how many people went to Worlds?
Yeah, exactly.
And then going straight to relegation, and that's the story. But then, of course, you didn't stay with SK Gaming. You didn't really take a break either, because then you joined us, Team Rocket, which didn't went too well. I mean, back then it was like the story. I mean, it was like a patch up team, right?
Yeah, it was a patch up team, and to make things worse, I think one of the players had like visa issues. So we
had to swap like every week.
We swapped support, and then we swapped AD, and then again we swapped support after. And we survived relegation, so that was fine. But
you were done playing.
Yeah, I think it just took it out of me what happened in the previous years in SK, and again, like I said, I wasn't good at improving myself, and that was a big issue in my downfall. I think looking back. That's what I could have done better. There's a lot of things I couldn't have controlled, but that's one thing I should have like done better looking back, But well,
now you're here. But then I mean, it didn't work out with Team Rocket. You kind of took a break, right?
Yeah.
What was your thinking? You're like, okay, this is over. I don't, because I know back then you didn't have fun playing the game anymore as well. I mean, what was your future plan? Because you talked about it like.
Yeah, this is one of those periods where you don't know what you're doing with your life. So, I mean, there was like a month or two where I was just chilling. But
did you play the game?
A little bit, I think. Not really like interested that much in playing. But when I was like watching the games and stuff, still had this like feeling that I wanted to like do something, So that's kind of how I decided to head for like coaching, and that way I wouldn't have to like play as much as well. So it's like.
So you still liked thinking about the game?
Yeah, I liked thinking. I liked the drafting point especially, and thought about like watching all these teams, like looking at the issues, like I could help fix that, Like felt like a sense of purpose coming back when it came to like. The esports side, So
did you then started reaching out to teams, or did teams reach out to you?
To be honest, I just reached out to Fly.
Okay.
He was the one. He was one person that I knew best in the scene still, and I figured he would probably be looking for something.
I mean, did you knew him before Team Rocket already?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah.
I mean, I knew that we always gave you mice.
Yeah, I mean, I was using the Rocket mouse, of course.
Yes.
So I went through him a lot, and also we're in the same office building at Case King, if you remember. So we Rocket and like SK interacted with each other quite a bit. So
but then you also met Hans Sommer back then, right? Because Misfits was also in office.
I don't think it was Misfits. It was HDK, I think.
Well, HDK was on the left, Rocket was opposite, and then you had the other room. Okay,
Yeah.
but then when you left, I think Misfits moved in.
Possibly, yeah.
Something like that. But you know, we saved like a lot of mice for you in Rocket because the mouse was already gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, this guy is using the mouse like 24/7. He's paying a fine to play with it. Can you save some? And then we actually saved some for you. And then I think Vendor later switched to it as well.
Oh, really?
So then he took like all the stock.
Oh, no.
And that's why there's no Savo anymore.
That's kind of sad.
I still have one at home, just saying.
I have 3 at home, but they're slowly dying.
Oh, yeah. But yeah. So you reach out to Fly, and he like instantly was like, because we already had a coach, right? We had Grabs.
You had Grabs. It was like his early time, Grabs, you know. So
And yeah, I know because before that I went to the house for a week or two and helped out with some stuff because we were not doing well, and they thought like, oh, this guy plays football in the first division, maybe he knows a bit about sports. But I mean, it was really unusual back then to have an assistant coach because most teams had one coach just because Riot had told him to get one, and it's paid for kind of with the budget. And you had to have one or you couldn't field a team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he gave you like a assistant position, right?
Yeah.
So he was the only one you connected with, so you just took it by the first chance?
Yeah, I just took it. And also, like, it was a team where I thought I could like make a big impact. So I was pretty happy with it, you know.
What was the roster? It was Hjanen, Vadid,
Maxlor,
Maxlor, Betsy, and
Faxi.
Taxi.
Yeah.
Oh, and the first split was the 0-7, right?
Yeah.
So it started 0-7.
It didn't go too well at the start again.
Yes. And then did you question your commitment?
Yeah. Not that much. I don't really know how I felt about it back then. I mean, I was still like learning how to coach and stuff, learning like because it's not just about game knowledge, you know. There's like a lot of stuff that goes into it. But I think I was useful in the game knowledge part. Yeah. Then we went 7-7.
But yeah, let's talk about the transitioning. How was it to transition from a player to a coach? Was it much harder than you thought?
Not really. There was stuff I had to learn to get better at, like talking in front of people, for example. You have to like phrase your points in a way that people actually remember. Like it's all well and it's all great being correct about a situation, but if you don't phrase it in a way that people can learn from, then what's the point? Like then you're just right and nothing will be gained from it. So that was one thing I had to learn. But also during this time, you know, I also Grabs was there, so I was like shielded from a bit of like stress and stuff.
So you could like learn from far away, right? Because he had to do all
I could like
stuff.
observe him and see what he did well, like copy it if I wanted, and yeah, it was like a good environment to learn in, I would say, and like develop over time.
Yeah. How was it working with Grabs back then?
Ups and downs. Like I think we got along. In general, I'd say we got along pretty well. Played a lot of ping pong together.
Yeah.
he normally won, which was not good for my competitive brain. But we had disagreements on some stuff. Like he was really more of a strict coach back then, whereas me coming from like this player team that had success when everything was really chill. I would have preferred the opposite way, you know.
Mm.
And I think we actually ended up like finding a compromise eventually on like how strict to be and stuff.
Mm.
But I mean, to be honest, we were both like in our really early phase of coaching, so we both had like a lot to learn, you know. And I think it was like beneficial that we were together because we could like learn from each other in a way, you know.
Talking about this, because Grabs is the complete opposite of you, right? Because you're a player coach, I would say now. So you became a coach, and there's another breed, I would say, of just, I don't know, people working themselves up from analyst to coaching. And if you look at the current state of the LEC, there's only 4 player coaches, and I mean just 3 head coaches.
Yeah,
I mean Amazing is just an assistant coach, but there's Miffy, you, Youngbuck. Actually, there's 5 then. Unlimited is also coaching. SK. Do you feel there's a big difference between those 2 types of coaching?
It's hard to say. Coming from like a player side, I would say that it's nice to have like a player coach, I think. Especially now that they're like, we're all getting a bit like older, you know. But I think that like all the coaches have like a value that they bring, you know. So and I also think to be like this player coach, you can't just know a lot about the game. You have to have like a certain personality where you can like adapt to your players, for example. You can't be like too stubborn, you know. I think a lot of players, if they wanted to coach, they would be maybe too stubborn to like do it. Yeah, it's like a hard question to answer, you know.
Yeah. But do you feel like with old players, they feel like, oh, this is the way to win, the only way to win, and then they don't listen to feedback, and then we're like, we need to just go this direction.
You mean with player coaches? Or? Yeah. I mean, it could happen like this, you know. But at some point, you have to like listen to your players as well. And, yeah.
But I feel like nowadays it's much easier for like a non-player coach to become a coach, because players are actually having a lot more respect for these kind of coaches. Because before that, I feel like it was much easier for a player coach to get integrated, because they looked at your achievements and they were like, oh, okay, this guy has to know what he's talking about because he went to Worlds. But do you feel like, because we got this rookie squad as well, right? So we have like a complete new, fresh-minded squad. Did you feel like that helped you like a bit, that they knew who you were?
Yeah, in terms of like respect, yeah. Like you're a like ex-player who actually like achieved something. Okay, we're gonna like listen and see what he can offer, you know. So I think it's definitely like an aspect that helps, like earn player respect. I mean, it's valuable, you know.
Okay, let's move back to the Rocket Origin match. It was almost exactly 3 years ago. The biggest clown fiesta of all time.
Yeah.
And then after that, we went on a winning streak and beat everyone. Now looking back at it, what do you think was the biggest factor why it turned around like this?
Obviously, for the player side, there was probably like some belief that they can win after they won this game. So there's obviously something clicked in their mind. I think from the other side of it is, what I remember about that split is we found a style that really worked for the players we had, and this was like this hard like 1-3-1. I think we had like Betsy on like Swain and Vladimir and stuff like
every
this.
game.
Yeah, and so we played 1-3-1 really, really well. Whereas before, I don't really remember what we were drafting. I don't think we had like a style that worked for us. It's like pretty big, you know, when your team finds how is the best way to play with those players, and you find it, then you can achieve like really great results like this, you know.
Was it like a valuable lesson for you, for your coaching career, to see like, okay, everyone thought before the split this is a bad team. I mean, it started as a bad team, 0-7, and then you just get the momentum and just, I don't know, like beat every team.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like it's kind of as I said, like the most valuable thing I can take away from that is like finding your style and what works for best for the team, you know.
Yeah, the funny thing is that split also Fnatic did that, right? Because they started to just put Reckless on Tristana, I think.
Yeah.
And he just split push and took like every resource, and they kept winning. And then people, I think he also played Cannon AD back then, right?
It's Cannon.
And everyone's like, this is so gimmicky. You can't keep playing like this.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did pretty well, right?
Yeah, it worked.
And then, do you think that maybe changed like the thinking of EU? Because back then everyone just tried to follow Korean meta, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they see like Fnatic doing pretty well with their own style, and nobody can stop it. And then I guess afterwards, a lot of EU teams just try to find their own style instead of like copying people.
I think I'm not sure if this was like a gradual process that it changed as people started to see Korea as like a bit not like the super region anymore. But historically, I think the teams that did well in Europe, NOA had their own like way of playing the game. Like Gambit had their own way of playing. I think we in SK did, like the old Fnatic did, like with Salas and stuff, and Peke. So I don't know, like I don't really felt like, at least when from my perspective, when we were a top team, we didn't really care about what the Koreans were doing and stuff. But I know that maybe for like the lower teams there was like a lot of copying of this Korean stuff. So, but I wouldn't say it was like a huge shift or something.
So you think to become a top team you need to find your own style?
Yeah, it's definitely like one of the key things. Like,
then shifting back to our team now, how do you feel about our team? Because I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but Janko said like about our team in the podcast that we're kind of gray. He doesn't really know what we stand for. We're like good in everything, but not like really, really good at something. How do you feel like our team is like in this progress of finding a style? Like, do we already have a style, or are we still looking for it?
I think we do kind of have one now. We have been like trying a lot of different stuff the previous weeks, like a lot of different styles, you know. Like it's completely different to play with like Yumi, for example, compared to like other bot lanes, and then we've been having like all kinds of different picks over the map, you know. But I think now that the playoffs is coming, we're going to like start settling a bit more. I mean, his comments about our team being grey, like I can't really agree with it. And anyway, I don't know what he's judging this on completely.
He said he doesn't feel pressured when he plays against us compared to like other teams. Like he said he even feels more pressured by Mad Lions, for example.
Maybe based on like scrims or something. I think on our stage game, like they should have been like pressured in this game, I think.
But I feel like he's talking about like style wise, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't throw some like a curveball or something like that.
Yeah.
Against them, because we would just play the game.
I mean, like we'll see this week, right? But
yeah.
I think there's probably some truth in this statement.
Maybe you should play that clip for the players before you go on stage.
Yeah, just motivate them.
Yeah.
Today is about more than a win.
Yes.
It's about pride.
I see the training as a coach worked out.
Yeah.
But now is it like 50-50 now? No, you played much longer than you coach, right? But it's getting there with like
it's close now. Yeah, it's close.
So what do you prefer, playing or coaching?
To be honest, back when I was younger, playing was like way better. But now that I'm older and I have like, I think I have other things going on in my life as well, that I prefer coaching, just because of the fact you don't have to like spend 4 months of your life like grinding solo queue, and then even in the off season you still have to like grind some solo queue, you know. So that's one element I like hated about being a player. But when I was young, it was like fine, you know. But I would find that really difficult now.
what I saw as a difference compared to like in the past. Because in the past I asked you like, do you still play the game as a coach? You know, and nowadays you play quite a lot of games again. What made you find that passion again to play like games?
I find that a lot of the patch changes are really fun. Firstly, like these like tower plates, I think they're a good addition and stuff like this. But also I think it's just like there's like no stress on me to play now. So in a way, it makes me want to play a bit more, you know, and just kind of like having fun in the games, but also like getting a feel for like how some champions work and stuff. It's also like valuable, you know.
So you feel like it helps you with?
It definitely helps keep me a tiny bit sharper, I would say.
Do you think that could be like a benefit that you have, like going back to the topic of player coaches and non-player coaches, because most of them are not really high elo? That you think it could be like a huge benefit for you, maybe? Yeah,
I mean, say from my own experience, when I go through periods of not playing, I feel like I just feel like not as good as a coach as when I'm playing a bit more, and I feel like I see things faster and like reviews, you know, like what should happen here. So maybe it's again like feeling the game a bit.
Also, the game changes a lot, right?
Yeah,
like, compared to what you had back in, and if you don't play at all, you know. And as we already mentioned, right, it feels completely different if you play and are in a situation compared to being a viewer. So that's interesting. So how much influence did Bloomingen had on this as your assistant coach? Because he's spamming like crazy.
Yeah, it's like a little competition between us.
Who's higher right now?
I think I'm higher right now. He's on a huge loss streak.
What's your elo right now?
I'm Diamond 2 right now. We kind of float between like Diamond 2, Diamond 1. Sometimes we have our tilt games, you know. But yeah, that's kind of our consistent elo, I think.
But how much influence did he have on you playing the game?
You know, it's always like motivating when you have someone next to you like playing a lot. You kind of feel like you should play as well, and we do a queue and stuff. So it's definitely had an influence for sure.
Because I feel like his philosophy is that you need to play to like really understand champs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he's a bit more extreme on that than me, but
I always wanted to ask this question. So think about like you getting like really, really high elo right now, and you're getting a feeling back, oh, I might be able to compete with the best right now, you know? How likely is it that you're just going to switch back to being a player?
Never. I mean, firstly, no team would take me up. I'm like too old. Like that's almost for sure, you know, I think. And
but what if you would have an offer from a top team? Because you were ranked 1 for the last 2 seasons. Just in theory.
I mean, possibly.
Just to prove it to everyone, or why?
Maybe it would like depend on like the meta and stuff, I guess. But I do kind of like this coaching life a little more, like I said, now that I'm older. So I'm not even sure I would, you know. And maybe I would just be the cool like rank 1 coach. That would be even better, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
are you rank 1 right now?
No,
it's secret.
Soon.
You do Web account right now. So moving back to the topic about like being a player and feel like different and being just a viewer. I mean, there's some kind of discussion right now with the casters, and I know your personal opinion on a lot of stuff since we work together here. But let's talk about like, because there's always this black and white thinking, you know, like this is a good draft, this is a bad draft, and nothing in between. But I know your opinion is that it's not as black and white as people think it is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the drafting process, of course, without revealing like our secret stuff yet now. But what's like the process of drafting as a coach? Like maybe already starting with the beginning of the week and scrims and stuff like that, and then like getting to the point of the game day.
Complicated question.
I think it's interesting. I think
there's a lot into it, right? The most basic thing is, okay, which champions are like OP, which champions need to be banned, which can be like traded or something like this. So that's how you like start with it. Then it
How much influence do the players have? Because I think that's something you should maybe mention, because for a lot of people, I think they feel like, okay, it's just the coaches, right? It's not, the players have nothing to say. It's just the coaches. But I mean, with OP picks and stuff like that, I could imagine the players come to you and be like, hey, I saw this in solo queue. It's probably good.
I mean, what I mean with the OP picks is like the stuff that can't be ignored in draft and should be the same for every team. So
Okay.
right now, this would be like the obvious one is like on. Like you can't ignore it, right? You either pick it, you ban it. Like that's where it kind of starts. So the players don't. I mean, this is just like not that players have not influence or something, but everyone knows this. Like coaches, players, you know. I think where the players have more influence is like what do you want to play later in the draft. Like what is good for your team, what is good for your players, what do they like playing, what is good against the enemy team. Like there's like so many layers. It's like hard to you know know where to start on this conversation, for example. But
I mean, just start by like the start of the week, right? You said you have the OP picks. How do you go into scrims, like thinking about picks? Are you like trying out a lot of new stuff, or are you trying to be safe and play every scrim like it's a stage game and you draft like a stage game?
I mean, we have a couple of days where you try picks. How it would normally go is like coaches kind of do like the first couple of bans and stuff, maybe like first picks, and then in practice like players can like chime in, like if they want to try something new, or like depends on like patch changes as well, like if anything changes. And so that kind of goes on, and then like at the end of the week you kind of decide what worked and what didn't, and you like construct the game day draft from that, you know. But players like certainly have like a big influence on it as well. It's not just like coaches.
And I can imagine they come with like crazy ideas of picks. How do you define as a team, this is actually a good pick and we can play it on stage?
It's difficult, right? Sometimes you just instantly know, and sometimes you get it completely wrong. Like we were one of the first teams to like actually try playing Soraka, for example, and we didn't carry on because we had trouble like playing side lane with it. We didn't really understand what to do with it, and we also, I think we built wrong with it a couple of scrims, so we didn't identify it as like a top pick. Well, we got like punished for it, you know, in this week 3 I think it was. So obviously like this process can go wrong. It's like reflected in the draft if you like misjudge how strong champions are, if that makes sense, you know. And yeah, that's like the process of the week, you know, like.
But how fast do you change like opinion? I mean, Soraka is the perfect example, right? We lose against G2. Next day we don't ban it. Is it like because we didn't feel like it's still like a good pick, or was it more like, okay, we feel like this team can't play it?
We were, I mean, in the Soraka case, it definitely took 2 days to learn. We were a bit arrogant towards it. I was, especially like after the first game. We thought, okay, we looked at some of our fights, right? And we thought, okay, G2 played this really, really well with Soraka. And there were some cases where Aphelios was like 1 HP. This happened like 2 or 3 team fights. And Soraka just got the hills off in time, you know? So going into the game as mad with the Soraka, we thought, okay, there's no way they're going to play it as good as G2. We won the lane against Soraka, so we can do it again. And it should be fine, you know? In hindsight, we should have banned it at the very least in second phase. So this was a mistake in draft. But it was like a build up from a lot of factors, you know, like.
But I think it benefited us in the long run or not, because I feel like it wasn't just the ban why we lost, but you could clearly see that even though we led both games like in early gold, a good team would still have like just close it out, right? Because I mean, especially against Mad Lions, I think that was the highest goal difference at 20 minutes.
I mean, that
all games.
that was the like week where we learned that okay, we need to get a lot better at playing on our side lanes, because we ended up grouping versus Soraka, you know, and there are a couple times in the G2 game where we could have pushed the side lane a bit more and got like some better flanks as a result, maybe. So we like we did learn a lot from those weeks, and not only that, we learned not to like underestimate these picks, to try and understand them a bit better when new stuff comes up in the meta. So I mean, yeah, we learned a lot from this week.
Because Finn also said in a podcast, I mean, you could blame him on the Soraka, right?
Yeah.
But he also said, like, based on the goal difference and how we played early game, we should have closed it out, you know? There's not a champion that OP that you can't close out this kind of game.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was a good learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Experience. And especially with you having the experience when you just win, and you don't really see the problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving back to the drafting process. So I think it's a really interesting process, and it's the only one I can talk to you and Bloomington about. How much do other teams influence your like thought process about picks and bans? Because you scrim against other teams, they try out new stuff. How much of an influence do those teams have on you?
Yeah, I'd say it's quite a huge influence from scrims. Like sometimes teams will just try new picks, and you won't know what's going on with them. Like, are they good? Are they not? So you kind of have to like try them yourselves as well to understand some picks. All these new picks, they like come from somewhere, you know. They come from one team, and then they scrim another team, and then
it just spreads.
It spreads, yeah. So it's like pretty. I mean, it's interesting how it works, really. Like, I don't want to talk too much in detail about it, because I might like reveal something accidentally. But yeah.
How fast do you think it spreads? Like, does it only take like 1 or 2 days? Like, let's say it's a really OP chapter. I mean, we can talk about Yuumi, right? Because it was quite OP a couple of patches ago, or a couple of weeks. How fast did that spread? Like, was it like after 1 day, every team was like, okay.
I mean, Yuumi spread like wildfire. Teams were like picking it a lot. And then all of a sudden it like died down a bit. Like, it's still already pickable champion. People still use it. It's just not like super high prio like it was for 1 week. This Yuumi was a bit strange how it came in and dropped out, to be honest. But I mean, it all began in scrims, right? Like you pick a new champion, or it's Yuumi, like people don't punish it properly. They don't know how to play against it. And Yuumi is the kind of champ, if you don't punish, you just kind of like win the game, I think. So I mean, that's what happened, right?
Yeah. How much does it happen that you feel like, okay, this is a pick that everyone picks, you know, but you have like a really good counter strategy against this, and then you leave it open on game day? How often does this happen? Or like, how much time do you invest into like finding maybe like, oh, this pick, everyone picks it, but we have a really great counter strategy, and we just give
depends on the team you play against, and also depends on the players you have and what options you have, you know. For sure this is like one way you can like draft, you know, like give them something, you know, that they will pick, and then draft against it, you know, and the draft is pretty planned out. It's definitely like one way.
Is it worth the time investment, or is it more like something we already know and we don't invest like special time in it?
Depends like what it is and how high prio the champion is, and a lot of factors go into this again. But mainly, again, the team you play against is how you decide like if you want to leave like certain champions over.
Like, for example, G2, it doesn't make sense, right? Because they're gonna have something to counter that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about, I think it's moving slowly to the actual question. So yesterday, Papa Smithy, I don't know if you saw it, that he said like when he switched over from the caster side to the team side, he could see like how much influence the caster or like social media has on your career, and that's why like a lot of people on the team side, they don't like the casters, right? Yeah. Let's just say it like really black and white. It doesn't mean But talking about like these counter strategies, I mean, and leaving up these OP picks for people to do. Do you feel like there are coaches in the league that are influenced by like the public opinion that they feel like it's too risky if we leave something OP open. We have a strategy, but then it doesn't work, and then people will start flaming me. Do you think
possibly like I can understand if this would influence, you know, how like drafts are going.
Okay, then
Because it's really annoying. Like if you do this kind of thing, and then you lose,
of course,
and then you have these casters with their like really strong opinions about this champion. How could you let this through, for example? Then it's like you're gonna get flamed by like Reddit and stuff, the community, you know. So it can have an influence, but I think, to be honest, at this point, most coaches, at least from my perspective, we tried to completely block out what some of the casters are saying in this regard and just do our own thing anyway.
So, for you personally, do you feel like sometimes I take less risk because of this? I mean, back then, I think this could have like a huge influence, right? Because it was, nobody had like a contract longer than 1 year, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe like even like with the other teams where coaches are not as settled as you are, I feel like you are really settled, right? With your relationship with Thomas as well.
Yeah.
He trusts you, you trust him. So, you probably have a good ground to take risks, right? But yeah, do you feel like, because I think it was really extreme just split so far with like what's a good draft, what's a bad draft, that you took like a step back and be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do this because we're going to get flamed again if we lose?
Not really for myself. I think we've left a lot of champions open that people would argue we should ban. Like we gave Origin Gragas twice, I think. Then we had these 2 Soraka games, you know. So I wouldn't say I've been like too influenced by it. I just find it like annoying when these big bold statements are being made by some casters. Like for example, like something that really bothered me was, it was 3 games into the split, and I think 2 of the casters had made this comment: "Wow, all rogues drafts are bad." Like chill out, dude. Like how can you make this comment after 3 games when teams are like learning the meta and stuff? And the funny thing was about this, we checked the stats for the champions on week 3 or something, and we looked at like these champions that people like all the analysts and stuff say we should be picking, and we looked at and it was like 1-7. We looked at Jav and it was like 2-7 or something. Rumble was like equally terrible, you know. The only one with a good winner, it was like Gragas. So I just find it annoying when the casters make these big bold statements about the draft and stuff, and they don't really see every angle or direction about it. I think they should like chill out a bit, and they can say their like preference and stuff, you know. But to say a draft is completely trash, or one of the casters said we got completely bodied in draft, I just think that's like unprofessional from that point of view.
But
honestly,
don't you feel it's like somehow kind of like part of their job to like hype up the crowd and make it like really black and white so people are more invested in the game?
It's completely like part of their job, you know. But when it comes to actual analysis, I think they need to like, some of the casters need to tone it back a bit, I think, is what I would say.
Okay.
Like it's fine to say like a team could improve this draft or something, like maybe there's things that and then they could like give examples of what they think went wrong. Like that's completely fine, you know. But you can't just say all the teams' drafts have been like bad or something like this, you know. Like that creates like a narrative. So then that like we had to deal with this narrative like even before the Soraka week, you know. And I thought that was really frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean it's an easy analysis to do, right? Because if you lose, you can always say
you can always blame the draft, you know. But I think they've just been a bit extreme on draft this split, and I'm at the point where I don't care anymore. I find it a little bit entertaining. I don't know what other teams' experiences are, but I remember we beat Misfits, and the first thing that they talked about was just the draft, you know, like not what went wrong in the game or something.
When we beat Misfits, and they talked about the draft.
They talked about Misfits draft, So I guess every team is experiencing this. So
I mean, there's if you look at the post game lobbies and like the analyst desk, and when coaches are on, you can feel the tension, because I've all the coaches are talking as well, right?
I think so.
So everyone, like all the coaches are talking with each other and stuff like that, and they are kind of having the same frustration.
I mean, I think so. I don't know. Like,
I mean, with Andre Guillotto, he came on
yeah.
and he was like, "What does it mean to just play different? You know, like what does it mean you need to be more aggressive against G2? I mean, if you're a bad team and you be more aggressive, you just lose in 5 minutes instead of 20. You know."
Yeah.
And then Grabs was on post game lobby, right? And then they talked about drafting. So that was kind of interesting topic because then they asked like, what does it mean to have a good draft?
Yeah.
So how would you define a good draft?
I mean, well, I think there's like two parts of this. I would say the first part is you need this balance between having like lane prio and a good team comp. And a lot of these champions that are like good in team comp don't actually give you much lane prio. If you don't have lane prio, you can have like losing lanes, and well, what can you do if the enemy plays well? You can't really do anything. They just take objectives and they snowball the game. So there's like a balance between these two factors. Then you have like these other things, like again we talked about before, like what are your players actually like good at? What do they want to play? Like maybe any secret picks as well. So it's like a big broad topic, you know. But
so you wouldn't say there's like a clear, you could never really like say this is a good draft because there's so many factors.
You can in a lot of cases, but in a lot of cases as well, both teams will have a draft that can win and can play, and maybe there's like 5% better draft or something. Our draft versus Vitality last weekend, they had a lot of winning lanes, you know. Like we had better team comp, but they had an early game jungler and a lot of winning lanes. But I think they didn't really like. It wasn't focused so much on the fact that they could actually win early and that they probably should win early. Instead, they were looking at how awesome our team comp was, you know.
So their draft didn't fit their style of play.
I mean, yeah, you could say that as well, but
or their game plan.
I mean, they just didn't play it out, you know. They didn't play the draft out how it should be played.
And then people start blaming them, right? Bad draft.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't take any advantages.
Yeah, bad draft. Enemy team had better team fight.
Like how can they win early game even though they have the later team comp?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big reason for like this frustration as well, right? Because people underestimate how much impact a player has in this, say, you know, just like in pick and ban. Maybe you can talk about it, like how much influence does a player have on the actual stage, pick and ban phase?
I would say normally the coach controls like the concept of the draft, as in what giga broken champions are going to be open and what you want to like trade. Although players do have an influence on this as well. And then the later in the draft goes, you need these like player specific picks, you know, to decide like what's best for your team and stuff. So the longer the further into the draft you go, I think the more like player influence it tends to have. That's in my experience at least.
Yeah. Also, what people underestimate is like what your teammates' influences on your pick, right? Because like I have the privilege to listen to some of the comps, right, during pick and ban, and then I mean even the players just ask like, how do you guys feel if I play this? Do you feel comfortable with it? Do you think it's good? So I think that's like a lot what people are missing, because they think like, okay, a coach is standing there, he's saying we're gonna play this, you don't have any say, and that's I think one factor of the quotation. And then the second part of the quotation is that how players are playing out like team comps, right? Because I feel like in normal sports it's much easier to see how a player impacts something, because I mean I think American football is like a good example. Okay, I come from American football as well, right? But coaches like draw out a play, and then you can clearly see if the player messed up, right? Because he didn't throw the ball long enough, or this guy didn't block like he should be. And I feel like this is also really missing in like League of Legends, because you draft like a complete early game draft, you know, and then the players just play passive, right?
Yeah.
And how much is that of a fault of a coach, right? I mean, I see you getting frustrated in the back. It's like, this is not how we want to play. We drafted for this, and then it doesn't work out. And then it must be really frustrating for you to hear like, this was a bad draft, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just think there should be maybe more analysis into why the draft didn't work. Does that make sense? Like, why this early game draft didn't work, or what went wrong?
So, in that discussion with Grabs, I don't know if you saw it.
Part of it, I think I saw, not the full thing.
Yeah, one of the casts, I think it was Verius. I think he said like how he would define like a bad draft, and he said like a bad draft for him is if you draft something that only has like one win condition, and if that one fails, it's kind of like a really bad draft because it's not like really flexible, and it's like coin flipping, right? Either you win this win condition or you're done. Do you feel like this is a fair assessment?
I think this is like a fair comment. For example, it's if you for example, if you only draft like a 1-3-1 comp that can literally only 1-3-1 and can never win a team fight, then it's like it can be tricky, So this comment I think is like fair. For example, it's like one part of it.
So you're trying to always draft a comp. If one thing fails, it's not like completely useless.
Yeah, you don't want a comp where if you die once, then in the wrong place, then it's like disaster,
The other question I have, because okay, I mean we're making it really like simple right now, So like lane prior you talked about, and then like maybe team fighting or late game.
Yeah,
I guess team fighting late game comp is kind of like similar.
Yeah,
in terms of factors. If you draft, do you feel like, okay, if I draft one champion that is like really like lane prioritize like minded, you need to draft the rest of the team also, like everyone has to have lane prior or it's a bad draft? Because I feel like that's the other misunderstanding, right? That the whole team has to be like focused on one win condition, I guess, with lane prior. But do you feel like you have to draft like this, or you can also like just draft maybe mid lane has lane prior and then both others are scaling?
I mean, I think it's not at all like this. It's really good if you get, obviously, if you get more than one winning lane, like 2 or 3 winning lanes, then it's really good. But if your winning lane is like a champion that's I don't know, like a Timo or something, and he's winning lane, then it's like obviously not good, So it's
but I'm saying, like, let's say you draft top lane for lane prior, right?
Yeah.
So he has to win early game or he's useless, right? Do you feel then like, okay, I need to draft for the other 4 players something similar in that kind of regard?
In some comps, maybe. With some champions, like maybe. Like if you have a winning top lane and you can draft a winning mid lane as well, then things are looking good for you, It's not as simple as that though, because like you can't like guarantee that you are gonna draft like a winning mid laner later in the draft or something like this, So yeah, it's complicated. Yeah.
Okay, it's hard to say. But maybe we can explain it with an example, right? Let's see if you want to talk about it. But I think like what triggered the casters in the beginning, where you were saying like they said after 3 games then we're only drafting bad, was I think the clear example that they always brought up was that we drafted Olaf in jungle, which most people think it's an early game champ, and then we picked Azir in middle lane, who's like more like a late game scaling composition kind of champ. And with mid and jungle being like a duo, people or the casters especially thought like this is a really bad draft because this guy is focused on this and this guy is more focused on the other stuff. But can you maybe explain it more and maybe make them understand why did we draft it this way with those 2 champions?
I mean, there were kind of 2 things. The first thing you could say about this is like, okay, you have this like scaling mid laner. So this like early game Olaf pick allows that you don't get like, you can like contest a bit more and like river fights and stuff, and you don't get like dove inside lanes. So you could argue like, okay, you could have like a late game and a late game scaling jungler as well, or you could have like something to like help out early while your mid laner scouts, you know. So, but in this particular draft, I think what happened was we picked jungle second phase, so we had a lot of the better options banned out anyway. So we just like, okay, we can pick Olaf here into a winning jungle matchup. Why not pick a winning jungle matchup, you know? So it was also about this individual jungle matchup and stuff being banned out. Yeah, it's like we prioritized picking something else earlier in the draft, so we dropped jungle pick, you know. We didn't think it was like that important to pick. Again, it's like a lot of factors, you know.
So you think like an early game jungler can also take the pressure off of like scaling mid laners?
Depends on the mid matchup as well, but yeah, I mean, you can look at this like both ways, you know.
Yeah, but
like, I mean, I agree to an extent that it wasn't like the best combo, and that we wouldn't like actively look for this. I think there were obviously improvements in like our drafts that could be made in the first 3 weeks, you know, but it's not like it was completely bad, you know. It was like okay.
Yeah, so it was adjustment to the situation with a lot of jungle bans.
And, it was like the cost of not picking jungle in first 3
and getting like better picks on the other ones.
Exactly, yeah.
But I feel like Larsen also feels strong about his Azir in early game.
Yeah,
because he said his Azir is also good in early game. So was that like a factor of him saying it's no problem in early game? I mean, we saw that it's not like a big problem for him, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, his Azir is like he always like can contest push, you know, and Azir is actually not that weak early. So even so, like you could argue that this Azir like even had push, and yeah, sure he can't influence the map that much, but he had push, and that means Olaf can like be freed up a bit to like actually invade one-on-one if he wants as well with this like positive jungle matchup. So that's also like something about it, you know.
Okay, let's move on. I mean, we can talk about these days, right?
Yeah.
But how much do you feel like the game changed from your playing days to nowadays? Is it like a complete different game or like quite similar?
Yeah, I mean it's like somewhat similar. For example, like the same map movements that were used in season 4 are still like used today. Like a lot of the same movements, you know, when you look at like macro stuff. So that hasn't like changed as much. I think the big difference always comes about when if Dragon gets changed, for example, like Dragon change is pretty big right now, and lane swap's like completely dead. So that was something big back in the day. It's not that just champions change, you know, like the champions are different, but the actual game and the like the core of it and the way it plays is like pretty similar, you know. Like it's not so different.
It's just the situation changes based on what they change, right?
Yeah, like there's like tower plates now. At a time there was tower shields. At the time teleport was already broken, but it was like eventually like everything always evens out in a way. So
what about late game? Because I mean there's not much that influences late game, right? Like objectives and stuff like that. Because of course I mean Baron, but Baron was always strong, right?
Yeah.
I mean now the Elder Dragon might be a bit stronger than what we had in the past.
Yeah.
But late game should be kind of similar, right? Like 1-3-1 stuff like this.
Yeah, it kind of is. I think the main difference for late game is these dragon and early game actually is these dragon changes. The dragons are like really useless early game, for example, which is also why maybe scaling comps are a tiny bit better right now. And then you have this like dragon soul coming in late the game, so it kind of forces like these team fights and stuff. But I mean, I feel like the game is like roughly the same, you know.
Talking about our team, we are pretty good right now in the early game, right?
Yeah.
Is this something that you like focus on as a coach, or is it just something that develops with what kind of players you have, how they want to play the game?
You focus. I mean, we've been focusing a bit on it in terms of like making sure we're like swapping our bot lane to top lane and stuff like this, and then dragon control in general and things like this, dragon and herald. But at its core, this comes from the players being like, really good and aggressive laners, and that's where most of the early game comes from. Is like laning power and jungle intelligence as well. So it comes naturally to our team, I would say.
It's not a secret that we also scrim FPX right before the World Finals.
Yeah.
How much influence do you think that experience was for the players, that they feel like we need to focus on early game?
I think this FPX scrim was just like for fun. I didn't even know it was happening till one day before. I was like, okay, let's do it, I guess.
And the players were like on vacation, didn't like really play solo queue.
Yeah, I think this was just a nice experience to play versus like international competition a bit. I mean, it's hard to say to get like a feel for it or anything.
But I mean, they play quite aggressive, right?
Yeah, the games were like quite aggressive early, and
I think
it didn't go as bad as I thought it would, considering we had like no practice as a team. You know?
But I feel like Larsen said like he kind of was like influenced by it because he saw like what Doinby was doing, and I think he changed his play style a little bit this season. Because last year I would say he was more like trying to scale and then win team fights, you know. And this year he's looking for more plays.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess it's a fair comment. Like, when you play versus like someone really good, you like try to adapt and take what they do well and like make it your own, you know. So, and I think this roaming thing is also like meta dependent a bit as well.
Yeah,
depends what's like being played at the time. So.
And I mean, Larsen is more like a really strong laner, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone saw those discussions with Doinby not being a good laner, but then you play him and then you see like how much impact he has, even though he has not a strong, like not the strongest lane. I feel like he still has a strong lane because he won't be a world champion with a bad lane. But I feel like there was maybe a big impact for Larsen to see that.
Yeah.
Moving to your current team, can you tell us a little bit about each of those players? So let's start bot to top, since you're a former top player. So I think with Finn it's kind of interesting, since you should have the most insights in it. Actually, you played AD carry before, right? Your first start is
season
AD carry
2 for a brief time.
How did that come about? Like, did you?
I wasn't
AD?
that bad at it actually back then, but.
But did you play like AD carry only in solo queue, or were you already a top
Mostly,
laner?
yeah. But I didn't really like how the lane felt to play in general, so it was a quick switch back.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about Vander. I mean, we talked briefly about him, you competing against him, the veteran of the team.
Yeah.
Just tell us, how do you feel about him as a player and as a person, and what he brings to the table, to the team?
No, I think the first thing is it's like really impressive that he's been playing this long, you know, and he's still at like a really competitive level. I think in terms of what he brings to the team, it's like he has a lot of experience, you know, so he brings like these unique points of view, or like what we can do to win sometimes in unique situations when things get a bit crazy. He also, like, since he's been in like successful teams and stuff, he also realizes like what is important if maybe we're not bringing it up enough, like how we should play fights in games, something like this, for example. So I mean, his experience in building these players has been really, really like valuable, you know.
Do you think he had an influence on how the other three developed in the top side?
For sure. Like, I mean, he was with them even before in academy, you know, when they were like really developing. So it's hard for me to say like how much of an influence, but I know he like talks to them a lot, gives them ideas and stuff. So yeah, he has an influence for sure.
Do you think he invented himself new to be like this flexible and still playing today?
What do you mean by it?
Like that he had to like really question, because his story is also quite unique, right? I mean, he went to LCS finals back then.
Yeah.
And nobody picks him up, right? That must be like really frustrating, because you're like one of the best supports apparently if you make it to the finals and nobody gives you like an offer. That must be really frustrating. So in my opinion, I feel like he really broke down like his own game and be like, is this still working?
Yeah. I can't say too much because I didn't know him before, much before, you know. But I imagine in this period where he didn't get picked up, there was probably like a lot of reflection and stuff. And I think what you can see is that he's like constantly trying to push others to be better as well. So I guess he wants to like recreate, you know, his conditions that were working for him and trying to recreate it in this team, if that makes sense.
Yep. Moving on to AD carry, Hans Sommer.
Yeah.
He's the newest member.
Yeah.
So maybe you can also talk like about his influence as well, but also how he like meshed with the team, like since he has this lowest time with the team.
I mean, I think that's one thing that he should be praised for, is he kind of instantly fit in with the team. Even before we really like scrimmed that much, I think he was fulfilling roles that we didn't really have fulfilled in previous year, like basic stuff in communication and things like this. So yeah, he also has like good understanding of the game, but I think he really meshed with the players like personality wise as well. He's like one of us, you know, and that was clear like really early into the split. So that's the first thing I would say about him. I really like the style he plays. Like he's always looking how to win lane and things like this, you know. And I think it shows in our early games. They've had really good performances in bot lane together. Yeah.
So he's meshing like really well with Vendor.
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say they're like one of the strongest bot lanes for sure.
What makes them so strong as a bot lane?
Constant limit testing in scrims. No.
So based on scrims, they should be the strongest.
I think like Vander in the past has like worked with Forgiven, and Hans has always had this like mindset to win lane. I think they both have like strong mindset to win lane, so they're like on the same page in terms of that. You know, they both want to win lane. They both like want to go in aggressive. I think it just like works.
I mean, a lot of people say that Steven is not that vocal in game. How is it with us? Is he like, because Vander said the complete opposite. He in the podcast he said like he's actually really like vocal, or not like on our team, but in previous teams he was really vocal, and I guess he has also a good idea of the game and how we should close it out and stuff like that. How vocal is he with Rogue?
Hans is like he's decently vocal, but when he's ahead he's like really vocal, which is, in my opinion, that's kind of how it should be. If he's not so ahead, then he's like just contributing, you know, not like dictating the game. But it's not like he's not saying enough or something. Like I think we're really happy with how much he's saying and how much he's contributing.
I think that was also a progress or learning curve, right, with him and the team. Because I think in the beginning he didn't talk too much. Yeah. Because he felt like this is the only way to play. Just focus on like being an AD carry. Yeah. But then I guess that developed, and then he realized if he's ahead, he needs to like tell everyone what he needs to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to our mid laner, Larsen. What do you have to say about Larsen?
Well, I think this guy is like one of the most dedicated players. Like he's constantly trying to improve, you know, and it's like trying to learn and like see what is working for us as a team, and his work ethic is like crazy good, you know. That's how I could sum it up. I think obviously it's like really insane mechanically as well. It like still like room to improve, I think, for sure. And he's very good at like certain styles of champions. So we've been working a bit on he's been like opening up his own champion pool on purpose as well, to like diversify a bit. And I think that's like really positive, and that will show like later in his career.
Yeah, I think he's the top laner with the most diverse picking and mid laner. I mean, Bippo is a different animal, but I think he has like 9 champs and many games we played.
And I think getting like the feeling of those champs on stage is like really, really, really valuable for him. So, I only have like good things to say, you know.
So having a player like this opens up draft quite a lot as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have a lot of options, you know. We never really have to worry about his pick. Yeah, a lot of the time it will be like Hey Larson, what do you think is best here?
Mm.
Well, sometimes we have suggestions, of course, but it's like it's a big ocean for him.
Do you feel like he's like a real team player? Because a lot of mid laners are really like, I just say egocentric, right? They did want to win lane because I mean it's a premier lane, right? Everyone's looking at mid lane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you describe him as like a team player?
I think so, but he also has this drive to like get ahead in lane himself. So maybe that can come off sometimes as like a selfish player when you're like watching him from outside. But I wouldn't call him that. Like, I think he just knows when it's good, like for a gank to hit his lane, and how he can like push leads and gain leads. And I'd rather have him like earning leads himself and trying to push them rather than like being like, okay, I'm just gonna go equal and try to roam, which I think is like one criticism people have had of him. But I think pushing your leads is like more important. So
yeah, isn't it a bit scary like how good he is already with his age and where he can still go?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to remember with all these players, even more so with Finn, but I don't think they've even played like 50 games on stage yet. So yeah, a lot of like experience and improvements. Like they're still probably on stage. There's scenarios that haven't even happened yet, and it's just to still learn from, you know. And so
I think it's crazy. Like going back to the casters, you know, when they talk about Larson, I feel like they don't talk about a rookie or something like that.
Yeah,
but they're like talking to like a veteran, right?
I think this is a big thing about at least the free and out team, like topside, is that, like they're not like veterans, you know.
No.
Like we had one split together. Even then, we had this 7-man roster. So in Finn's case, he had not one split; he had 3 weeks of a split, but more on that after, I guess. And we overperformed in. I mean, the meta was very good for us in playoffs, you know. Like we overperformed compared to everyone's expectations, you know. So, but coming into this split, I kind of knew there would be like a lot of improvement that had to be done, you know. The meta will change, and we have to like learn again. So, but I mean, it's
something that people like to forget, right?
Yeah, they're not like, okay, there's these newer teams, but they're not that much newer, you know. Like we are still a new team. Like who knows what our limits are? To be honest, I feel like we're still improving this entire split. So, I mean, that's good. We haven't like stalled or anything, in my opinion. So we're gonna continue in summer.
So how happy are you with the progress so far?
I'm pretty happy. I think we had maybe a couple of slow weeks due to our schedule. It's something we actually can't control. Due to our schedule, we had a couple, maybe 1 or 2 weeks of bad scrims where we played. I think we played Origin, Fnatic, and G2, and another good team. So
they don't scrim us.
They won't scrim us. So we had a couple bad weeks where scrims were like not that great in terms of progress, you know. But it's an upward trajectory, and we can all be happy about that, I think.
Moving on to the next player. Inspired, the Casper. Yeah. I mean, Casper in German means like a troll, you know.
Does it?
Like Casper is like the class clown, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it suits him.
It's actually perfect. Yeah. What do you have to say about Mr. Inspired?
I mean, first thing is like, he is kind of this joker of the team in a way, you know. It's not to say he's not serious when he needs to be, but he has a lot of fun playing this game, and you can like really tell. Something I thought about him is, he, in a way, the way he is as a person, and also the way he likes to play the game, does remind me a bit of Svenskeren back in the day.
Okay. Because
I mean, he is this joker. Sven was kind of the same, and the way he plays, he likes to be this like fast tempo jungler. So that also was also how Sven played a lot. I just see like a lot of similarities, you know. It's a good thing in my opinion.
What makes you think? Well, what makes you think make Inspired like really, really strong compared to the other junglers?
I mean, again, like I don't know the other junglers, but I think Inspired has a good read on what the enemy jungler is normally doing.
Mm.
He's like pretty decent, like shot calling and giving like plans early game, like pretty good at it. And also, I think, I mean, he like plays a lot of champions at high level. Like again with this rookie stuff, like this split he had is like his first Lee Sin games on stage. So it's like, I think that's like a tough one for junglers, you know, to actually pick up Lee Sin and be useful, and probably a couple other champions too.
Yeah, and I think his Lee Sin plays were insane.
I think he's really good on Lee Sin. So yeah, like pretty diverse champion pool. Still growing and getting experience on those champions.
But yeah, Yamato can say like it's like his thresh mark of like a good jungler if they can play Lee Sin on stage and be useful. But you said like his shot calling. I think that's something that we quite focus on, right? On the last split, that he's more vocal because
he's like he's really smart about it. So I mean, when he's like giving his all in communication, the game just feels like so structured from outside in the early game. He's like a big power in the early game, I feel like. Yeah.
So you would say his game sense is already really good.
It's really good game sense, I think.
And that's
especially in the early game, like.
And that's incredible, right? As a 17 or 18-year-old player.
Yeah. I think there are still things he can like work on later in the game, but his early game is like crazy good, I think.
Then let's talk about the last one, Finn. Your top lane buddy.
Yeah.
Who took your name in solo queue?
I mean, Finn's been interesting, right? His story in Rogue, because we grabbed him for 2 games in the Doomed split. Which I'm glad
we did. Yeah,
I'm glad we didn't talk about that. Thank you.
Wait, we're still time.
No.
Thanks for reminding me.
Well, scrims is starting soon. Yeah, I mean, we took him twice then, and he was thrown around a lot. So we took him out of academy. He lost practice with them, and he had the rough EU Masters. I think, like he had some bad matchups as well. Didn't play that great. Then in summer split, like this is the thing that people say, it's like, oh yeah, he played a split already, but he really didn't. Like we were sharing scrims with Prophet and him, and at the end of it we just decided to, like, you know, things weren't going that great, so we took a bit of a risk and we just threw him in. Good luck, Finn. And he like performed, you know, like there were maybe some lucky performances that could have been a bit of a disaster, but he, like, the way he plays, like I mean, it ended up good for us, so we kept him on. I think he played 3 weeks and then he played playoffs, something like this. So he didn't even play a whole split, you know. But and then we decided, okay, he's like got a lot of potential, you know. So we kept him for this year. So far, it's working out, and he's still growing as well. It's his first real split, you know, and he's like really showing up as one of these like top laners, I think.
How much of a impact did it have that he had like Prophet in front of him and maybe like learned stuff from him?
I like to think that he like learned from Prophet some stuff and took like good parts of what Prophet was doing. I mean, he wasn't watching like every scrim or something, so I mean, from my point of view, I would think it would have been very valuable to like watch another good top laner play. So I think he could like learn a lot from this. But
I mean, besides the scrim, they always talk, right, about like top lane.
Yeah, they talk about picks and stuff. And
they played 1v1s.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess he's better suited to answer that, but I imagine that it was like useful for him.
What do you think makes him unique to other top laners? Because I feel like his playstyle is different than
he has this like he likes to fight people, and he's not scared to ever fight, you know. So when this goes well, it's like really valuable. Just need to like learn to control it a bit, you know. But I think he's got a lot smarter about how he plays the lanes and how he manages waves and stuff. So he's shown a lot of improvement in this, and now he's like also diversifying his champ pool and that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to like watch him grow, you know.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can coach him better than the other positions since you were a former top laner?
Kind of, and the fact that I'm like playing a bit more again like helps, like keeping me a bit sharp on how top lane should be played. I talk to him sometimes about some stuff, give my opinions on some stuff, you know. Yeah.
I think he secretly idolizes you.
I hope so. I think he idolizes the forward percentage.
Yes, he's like, I want to be like fredy122.
I mean, I'll tell you, if there's one person who will beat this record one day, it will probably be him.
Really?
In the perfect meta, it could be him, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he stole someone's name.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, just for everyone that doesn't know, so fredy122 changed his name.
Yeah.
And Finn grabbed it. And actually, we played against, or he played against Wicked in solo queue.
Yeah.
And we trolled like some people. We were like, yeah, I'm thinking about coming back and stop coaching. And I think Wicked was like kind of like believing. It's like, what? Really? You coming back? So that was a fun episode. I wish we would have recorded it. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, but I don't think he plays on it right now, right?
I don't think so.
But hey, let's see. We shouldn't reveal the secret, actually. Maybe delete it. No. But
I mean, in general, I'm like super happy with the progress that they've all made, you know.
Yeah.
And our progress as a team, like, I think we'll continue to get better. Hopefully, I think this has been a really good week so far. So hopefully, we can show it on stage. And again, like, our big problem right now is that we, at least on stage, we are having troubles like beating these top teams in slower games where there's not so much madness. So that's something that we learn a lot from when we play the stage games, because they're always slightly different to scrims. So I think in time, hopefully this week, maybe in summer, that we're gonna like start consistently being able to beat these teams, you know.
So what do you think, or where do you think we will end up at the end of the spring split, placement wise?
It's really close right now.
I mean, with playoffs, like just get into playoffs, but where
I think there's a good shout for us coming fourth if we win one of these games, and then we win. We have Schalke and SK in the last week. Then we're probably like fourth because we're 2-0 versus Misfits, but 0-2 versus Origin. Fourth is like the most likely, I would say. If maybe fifth if it's like doesn't go so well.
And then with playoffs, where can we end up after the spring split?
Tough. I mean,
do you think we can win the spring split?
It will be hard. There's always a chance. I think if we get like, let's see how the next patch turns out as well. If the meta is like perfect for us, then things could like go our way. Realistically, I think maybe like third place or something like this, maybe third or even second is like probably more achievable, you know. Like
but I think the patches are turning to us right now.
The patches are looking like better for us
because
already.
They're trying to force more early games.
Yeah,
I think the third plates are way more worth now.
Yeah, the third plates was a nice buff for our team. See what they nerf with the OP champs and stuff. But
do you know what our percentage is in taking first turret?
I think it's something crazy, like 80%, maybe
86%.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. Actually,
like, that's impressive.
Yeah,
considering we still have like what 5 losses.
Yeah, and especially the Mad Lions game where they pushed like mid lane and we just stayed back, and then we're like, oh no, they're taking the mid lane, and then we went in and died, but we still got the first turret then because they had to back off.
Yeah.
So what was that worth the trade?
For the stats, of course.
But isn't it also worth it in terms of the game?
I don't remember the scenario like specifically.
I think Finn die, I think, and then that made them back off, and then Steven took the turret bot. I think that's how it went.
It's sometimes worth it. Yeah.
One last thing about Finn that I forgot to ask, like his personality is something different, I would say. how do you feel like his personality has an impact on the team? Because he's like really.
Yeah, he's not the normal tilting top laner. I can tell you that from experience. He's always like positive, in games. He tries to keep the game going. If there's one person who's not gonna tilt, it's Finn. I think normally it would take something extreme,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good personality to have on the team.
And somebody described Finn, I'm not sure where I saw it, but maybe it was on Reddit, that Finn reminds him of like maybe Caps, in his first split, like being like really aggressive, like maybe finding his limits. Do you feel like this comparison is like legit? I mean, it's not the same lane, but
yeah, I can see the logic behind it, because I would think that Finn probably has like a lot of solo kills this game, and maybe a lot of solo deaths as well. So
pushing the
probably lane. Like he's one of the top when it comes to these stats. So I can see it, like he's like explosive playstyle,
And it's unusual, right, for top laners.
You will often see Finn and his lane opponent at like 100 health at level 2. It often happens. There's like a lot of fighting and stuff. So
especially with Kled.
Yeah, especially with Kled.
Yeah, but yeah, I think his solo kill stats got kind of robbed because of Senna and Hans Summers solo assists with his ult.
That's true, actually. Yeah, there's the global ults.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the last game or last week matches. So we play against Vitality and Mad Lions. Vitality, is the 10th place team right now. How difficult is it as a coach to motivate a team to play against like the 10th place team and not get complacent?
On LCS days, or LEC days, LEC. I haven't adapted yet. It's not that hard on LEC days. Like, in fact, it's like people aren't that stressed. We're not a team that is like stressed playing against those 10th place teams or something. Like some teams might be. So in that case, it wasn't that hard. And I think Vitality, with all the like these issues they've had and stuff, they just had like a rough one, and they don't have a style or something. So it's pretty fine to play against them,
Do you think the team prepares differently against like Vitality compared to maybe like Origin, Fnatic, or G2?
We did this like target ban, this like Victor target ban, for example, against Selfie. So sometimes, it's team to team, but in this case we did,
Then the second match, that was quite a high pressure match, if you're gonna be honest, because of the 4th place race and us losing the.
Losing that might have locked us into like 6th place, for example, already, depending on results. But if nothing crazy happens, then we would be like 2-0 behind Mad Lions, So, but that was a high pressure game.
And I think we performed quite well in this high pressure game.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect again. The early game was like, wow, okay, this game is gonna be over in 20
There was
minutes.
one like blip in the game around Herald where we like leashed it for them, and they said thank you and took it.
Yeah.
And then we also leashed the first dragon for them or something. Without going, those were issues caused. There was an issue why that happened.
Yeah.
But without going into too much detail, like we're like trying to fix that,
But the 5 million dive on bot lane, is that something you like plan and practice, or is it just something out of the game? They were like, okay, we can do this. Let's just do it.
We definitely like practice these scenarios. Okay. Normally it's like a 4-man dive, but Finn wanted it on the fun in this case. So
it looked cool, right? I think it inspired word for him.
Yeah. It looked very satisfying at the poor enemy bot lane.
It could have a factor, like the mentally, like, oh my god, man, they just 5-man dive us, What is my team doing?
We actually didn't even play it perfectly because they got 1 kill back, but it was like, okay.
Inspire could have flashed. But then I guess the objectives, people were questioning like, hey, why didn't we just fight it? Because we're so ahead, right? Don't go into details, but what's your coaching view on this? Was that something like that you like
I mean,
coach them?
the coaching view on this is that we shouldn't even have started the objectives, so there shouldn't be a fight. But when we're in that situation, I mean, it's hard to say, because sure, if we fought it and we won, the game is over.
Yeah.
But if we fight it and we lose, then they have Herald and they just want to fight. All of a sudden, the game is equal again, basically. So
it wasn't worth the risk.
It's when the game is like that ahead. I'm glad that we were like, okay, let's not risk it. Like, this game is pretty won, even if they have Herald, you know.
So you were happy with how the team played this out?
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't flip the game, you know. There's no need to flip. Sometimes you can flip, but this was not a flip case.
Yeah, I think Bloomingen is like a real, because he always like emphasized, right? If you don't have the setup, the vision set up to contest something, don't contest it. Just find something else to look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, okay, we had the last week matches. Actually, I forgot to ask you, but let's ask you about Bloomingen. How do you feel about him and how are you guys working together? And maybe Nico in there as well, the poor Blue Knight.
Everyone forgets about the Blue Knight.
Yeah.
I'm glad this year and the last split that I'm working with someone who I can actually work with. I found it in the past, like, it's kind of tricky to find people you like working with or you get along with or who have the same like philosophy as you when it comes to like coaching. And Bloomy is like someone I get along with. We have like really similar philosophy, I think. We were both players, right? And I mean, he was a player,
not as successful.
Not a successful player, but I'm sure more about that when you do the podcast with him. Look forward to hearing it.
You have a message to him that I should ask him about?
I will just let you roast him instead. I mean,
okay.
Just talk about his failures and stuff.
I will make something up. He's not gonna listen to this anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the coaching staff we have right now, we like work together really well. We synergize pretty well. Like, some stuff I'm not so good at, someone else will do. Some stuff they're not good at, like someone else will do, for example. So it's we have a nice balance right now, I would say. Also putting like Nico and Ismail into that. So yeah, it's nice, I would say.
Nice. Okay, this upcoming week, how important is this week for us as a team? We play against G2 on Friday and Fnatic on Saturday.
I mean, we talked about this a bit. For me, there is a little more than the result on the line. Like, we're pretty much in playoffs now, like whatever. What I want is like, even if we don't win, at least we like put up a really, really good performance. You know, I don't want it to be like these Origin games where we just kind of like rolled over, and I'm sure the players like feel the same. You know, so I'd say a bit of pride on the line this week, and. Well, I mean, obviously we'd like to win as well. And if we win, then I don't know how the top of the standings looks, but it's nice to get top 4 with the new playoff format.
Finn predicted us top 2 in the Euphoria podcast, which is technically only possible if we beat everyone and they lose.
I respect it.
What do you think he ranked as the first team? That was before the G2 Fnatic game.
Maybe Fnatic.
Oh, you would have said G2, right?
Yeah.
He said Fnatic first and then Rogue second.
It doesn't surprise me.
All right, I have 2 more fan questions for you. Okay. And they're quite good, actually. Like the first one especially. So the first question that I got from fans was, does the factor of average years of age of a team make the work as a coach a lot harder or easier, and why? Like the team age, I guess. Like the players' ages.
I think it makes it harder, yes.
If they're younger?
Yeah, I mean, it's different, right? If they're younger, then often it's also important that we like talk to them about how to like give and receive feedback and things like this. A lot of young players like might come in a bit stubborn and stuff. We didn't have it so bad in our team actually, but whereas the older players, they've like they know what it's like already, you know. They have like experience in other teams and things like this. Older players, it's actually harder to change their view on the game, I find. So if you have an older player who you as a coach think was like coached wrong or has like the wrong idea of the game, it can be really, really tricky to like change that opinion compared to a younger player who like his mind can still be like taught what is right and what is wrong, you know.
So what do you prefer?
I mean, I prefer younger players for sure. I think it's like more rewarding. There's just a couple more challenges, like with them, like learning how it is to be like in esports, you know.
So with Vander, do you have like more discussions because he has like his own views, like more developed about the game, or do you feel like he's as open as the rookies?
He often like starts a lot of discussions, you know, and stuff, and asks if they can like be different. And some of the time we like agree with him, and some of the times it's like not agreed, you know. But it's like good to have a discussion in general.
But is he as open-minded as the rookies?
Yeah, he's. I mean, I would say so. Like,
I
would say he's like adapted to the team a bit.
Yeah.
In terms of that, and they see it like pretty similar the game, you know.
That's what I was hinting towards. You know, I feel like this is what makes it possible for him to still play this game.
The players like I was kind of referring to with my like older players things was the doomed spring split, where we had one Vitality member, one G2 member, like two Rocket members,
and their own.
And then we had the Senkoks like Misfits, and we had trouble like combining these views into like how we wanted to play.
So that was also really helpful experience.
Yeah, in terms of like how a team should be like built, I think, and like what to look for, and yeah, I mean, I don't know with that team, like it was just disappointing, you know, what happened. Like,
I mean, we're probably gonna do like podcast episodes with you and Bloomy together, and then we can highlight this a bit more. Maybe with Bloomikin's view on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, his view as an outsider will be quite different, actually.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
I talked to him, so he had some strong opinions about that.
Yeah, I know he will.
Since I guess it was like a duel between the two of you, right?
I'll be ready to be roasted in that episode.
Him with Academy and you with the main team. But yeah, that's all I have. Do you have something that you want to talk about?
Not really. I mean, just from our side, we just continued like improving, and I hope people can see that we're like continually improving, and yeah.
Do you have any messages to the fans?
Yeah, thanks for being our fans.
But can you hear the chants during?
Yeah, we can actually, especially the ones like the fans that go to the Berlin studio. Like we always hear that chant.
I think at this point we have like one of the loudest chants.
Yeah, we have some loud fans, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I mean that's nice to hear. You know that the fan base is like growing and everything. So.
When are you going to tweet something again?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay, I think that's an interesting topic as well. Last one. So you, as a player, I guess you didn't use social media too much. But that's not something you would suggest to your current players, right? Because I heard you talking about it with them. So tell us about like social media, because I talked with Isma about this, how he would feel like if a player doesn't use social at all, and he was like he would prefer it if the player thinks that it's a distraction. But how do you feel like as a former pro, how important is to build this kind of brand?
I mean, okay, there's two parts of this, right? Like performance-wise, you could argue that it's better to not use social media and stuff and not read what people are saying. Can be like really distracting, annoying, whatever, confidence destroying maybe. But I think you have to do it as a player to like build your brand. Like you can dictate narratives and stuff. Like maybe if I had a bigger brand, then there would be people like saying, no, this draft is good. You know, the casters are wrong, or the analysts are wrong. You know, for example. So I mean, yeah, you have to have a brand. Like,
Mm.
it's not something you can really ignore.
Yeah, but I mean, even if players say they don't look at social media and stuff, like, they still read Reddit and they still read Twitter.
Yeah, you can't help
You
yourself.
can't just block it out, yeah. But yeah, are you gonna tweet more now to control your narrative?
I'll make an effort.
I actually want to do a show with you and Bloomy, just talking about the game,
Oh boy.
analyzing stuff.
Okay.
I think that's probably a fun show.
Yeah, it might be.
And then maybe Isma, and then he guesses his input.
No, he's not invited.
What about Nico?
No, he's not invited either. His opinions aren't strong enough yet.
But is his? I guess we're gonna have an episode with him, so I will ask him that rather than you.
Yeah.
Then thanks, Freddy. I mean, we're right on time for scrims, I think. What time is it? 1:52? 53? Well, okay. That's the longest.
That was a long one, yeah. Long career, what can you say?
Then, yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for skipping the first scrim game for us.
Apologize to Bloomy, I think.
I mean, come on. If you wouldn't have been late, we would have still skipped the
Yeah,
first
that's true.
scrim game.
It's partly my fault.
But yeah, then thanks everyone for listening to us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcast app. Just search for Under the Hood, and then maybe Rogue as well. You can find us on YouTube. Where else? I think that's it. Yeah. Thanks for listening, and see you next week. Bye. You want to say bye?
Goodbye.
Bye.